This image, right here. Basically, any form of media created by anyone is subject to interpretation and dissemination, and out of that comes a sea of misguided individuals not seeing or getting the message of the work.
There's nothing else to play!
TV Tropes has an entire page dedicated to the application of this idea both in fiction and non-fiction, storytelling or advertising, basically everything. It's practically a piece of the human condition, the idea that we should not do this cool thing. Unfortunately for all of you, I'm not an expert on psychology, storytelling, or really anything. But I do own G Gundam on Blu-ray, so that means I've sacrificed money to the Gundam gods for a chance to relive pure Kino. And so I feel unjustifiably confident enough to talk about Gundam and how the messages of the original series and franchise have been misread and taken in some interesting directions over the past 40 plus years. First, some background info. The original Mobile Suit Gundam was written and directed by this man, Yoshiyuki Tomino, in 1979. Wasn't particularly successful and was cancelled before the finish line, ending at 42 episodes. However, the show had some really popular toys, and real robot imitators and successors began cropping up. That wave of influence led to a remake trilogy of films being made, and that success propelled Gundam forward into a wave of sequels, spin-offs, imitators, and a lot more toys. For his part, Tomino relinquished his total control of the franchise after the 1988 film Char's Counterattack, having cemented himself in his Universal Century Saga as one of the most culturally significant anime of the 80s, and of all of the 20th century in general. I'd wager only one of you knew any of this, however, because the first Gundam to reach the land of guns, God, and glory was this one, which aired on Cartoon Network in 2000, 5 years after it originally aired in Japan. Then, instead of translating and airing this one, or this one, they translated this one, which had scenes like this on air right around when the US suffered the worst attack on their soil in modern history. It also looked like this, in a time when popular anime in the US looked like this. So the franchise grew less and less popular in America until they just stopped bringing them over, although with the creation of new, disconnected shows and streaming anime becoming wickedly popular, the impact Gundam saw in Japan is starting to spread elsewhere. To talk about the meaning of the original Mobile Suit Gundam anime, it's important to also understand a bit about Tomino, the man who created it. Tomino was 3 years old when the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and in much the same way that those horrific tragedies impacted and led to the creation of cultural landmarks like Godzilla and Astro Boy, they influenced Tomino's work specifically to tell a sadder, darker story about war and human conflict. For a series with brightly colored mech suits and larger-than-life designs, there are a lot of brutal scenes of wanton death and destruction. While the Principality of Zeon are a Nazi analog and the clear antagonists, it's shown that the Earth Federation, the heroic faction, are far from perfect in that both sides have their heroes and villains. A lot of this is steeped in the story's lore, with the show's events being the twilight days of a year-long conflict, literally the 1-year war, that began with a coup inside Zeon, where the previously benevolent leader was assassinated by his power-hungry lieutenant Degwin Zabi, who then turned the rebellious state into the fascist movement dropping space colonies on Australia. From this, recurring and non-recurring villains were born, from the twisted mentor figure Ramba Ral, to the civilian spy Miharu, and even Degwin Zabi's children, who range from the honorable Garma and Dozel to outright Hitler clones in Giran and Cassilia. It reminds me of a quote from Arnold Schwarzenegger, who himself saw defeated Nazis needing to live in shame of what they had been manipulated into doing, without any of the glory they believed they would earn. Gundam is also about people caught in the crossfire, with the heroes consistently being teenagers who find themselves in the midst of a conflict they have little to no stake in, being forced to kill or be killed. In much the same way that Zeon is portrayed on a scale of morally gray to outright evil, each of the protagonists exist on the scale of duty and desire, with what they'll tolerate to survive being re-evaluated each episode. Other civilians, not even soldiers, often wind up as casualties of conflict. No life in the original Gundam is treated as worthless or throwaway. Every foe Amuro Ray faces has a name, some of them have loved ones. Being the victor day after day takes a noticeable toll on him. Future stories would continue this in their own way. Many of them, from the Universal Century and beyond, focus on the depressing effects conflict have on normal people. If I had to summarize Tomino's future Universal Century titles based on this, I would call Zeta Gundam a story about revenge, Clouded Judgment, and the depravity of power. ZZ Gundam being very optimistic, but having a deep story to tell about breaking its youthful cast. And Char's Counterattack is about how absolute power and ambition corrupt, well, absolutely. However, beyond that, things get messy. Remember those toys? The most unfortunate truth of being an artist on planet Earth is that unless you're independently wealthy or benevolently funded by someone who is, you and your work are going to need to be profitable, or else they won't be allowed to continue for long. As someone who makes shit for the internet and knows others who do, it's the suckiest reality of doing anything creative. Just ask this guy.
Yeah, this sucks.
Thanks, K-Bash. This is why the original Mobile Suit Gundam anime got cancelled before the finish line. The series was supposed to be slashed to 3 seasons, a total of 39 episodes, but higher-ups were convinced to give them an extra 4 episodes to finish the story. Some elements, including the Gundam's color scheme, outlandish weapons, and the modular G-armor pieces from the second half were all corporate-mandated attempts at profitability. The show itself never got there during its run. But 2 things were salvaged: the toy line and Char Aznable. The toys speak for themselves. $44 billion a year is nothing to sneeze at on plastic models. It's cool robots, right? Just cool robots doing... Jesus Christ, stop! You're brutalizing them! Oh God, not the children! Not the... Oh God, no! What is he doing with those scissors? What is he doing with those scissors? Oh my God! No, there was a people in there! Oh God, what's he doing with... No! I think I'm gonna be sick. But Char is special. Char was a major figure in the 1979 series, being Amuro's main rival and an enigmatic figure playing both sides of the One-Year War. While he was clearly meant to be sympathetic, more so than the rest of the villainous cast, he's clearly not a good guy, has a bloodstained past and, spoiler alert, but he actually dies at the end in a blaze of glory. Like, check this out. Wow. But, it's not even 1 episode into Zeta Gundam before it becomes clear he's not only alive, but fighting for the heroes? Breakthrough popularity will do that. Hell, in literally all of fiction since Char, you can tell exactly who the coolest and most competent character will be based on whether their mode of transportation is painted red to make it 3 times faster. And before I ruin what is clearly one of the coolest characters in history, let me just make this clear. Char is popular and looks cool as fuck. Yeah, that's a Char Toyota. He might not be as legendary in the US, but there's no denying he's an immortal figurehead for not just Gundam, not just mecha, but anime as a whole. Marketing Gundam with Char might have been financially sound, but in terms of what message that sends, There are unironically Gundam fans with neo-Nazi and crypto-fascist inclinations who idolize the Zeon in all its incarnations because of Char's sheer charisma. These people espouse the same ideologies that the shows go out of their way to paint as sympathetically villainous because Char is just that awesome. In turn, that has led to an uncomfortable number of people who overlook his laundry list of character flaws. While Char in marketing is a suave, confident, handsome badass, Char in the Universal Century is a paranoid, sociopathic, cold-blooded killer who manipulates everyone, especially women, and revives the Zeon movement just to try and wipe out all life on Earth in the war crime to end all war crimes for a chance to prove his dick is bigger than Amuro's. Not that size matters to him, since he also likes his women young. In interviews, Tomino has gone on record saying that his goal with escalating how depraved Char is was specifically to dissuade people from identifying too strongly with him. And kudos to the man, but the marketing department didn't get it, and that meant that fans didn't. Char Aznable is the epitome of do not be this cool guy, for a franchise that has gone out of its way to sell how cool giant robots fighting to the death is. So, where does that leave us? There's a reason I know all of this stuff off the top of my head. I love Gundam. I love when it's good, I love when it's bad, all of it. I've spent countless hours watching and rewatching each story, so much money and gunpla, and the fandom has been there for me when no one else has. And something that's optimistic is that the creatives behind the series know that too. When Tomino first stepped away and allowed someone else in there, they made War in the Pocket, which some, myself included, consider a masterful deconstruction of Gundam's effects on adolescence and the public at large, as well as one of the greatest war stories ever animated. The alternate universe stories didn't let up either. In each their own way, G Gundam, Gundam Wing, and Gundam X address flaws of the Gundam franchise model and formula as it was in the 80s and 90s. 2000's era Gundam, as inconsistent as fans claim it is, all focuses on translating Tomino's vision of a world struggling to find harmony through a modern lens. The newer shows like Iron-Blooded Orphans and the currently airing Witch from Mercury have truly brought the focus back to character-driven conflict and drama, and all of this while the Universal Century came back in a big way with new films and short stories. Even when Gundam is quite literally about toys, it manages to work in powerful themes of identity and liberation from the caustic status quo. Gundam is great. People will continue to misinterpret its message, bathe in gratuitous violence, find the wrong heroes in it. But the fact that over 40 years down the line, it hasn't lost its way, and still turns out stories that tell us war is bad, death is bad, humanity sucks, but maybe we can find peace and love, means that it's worth celebrating, worth enjoying, in spite of how it can be read wrong, and how much surrounding it tries to get us to do that. Peace out. Hey everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Just a couple quick thank yous here at the end. Thank you to Rogue Metroid for proofreading over this piece. Thank you to Sydney, Ben, and Crow for being great collaborators and partners on all of these projects. Huge thank you to K-Bash for showing up for this video. If you haven't seen his stuff and you are here for some reason, go check out the link in the description for his channel. He is fantastic. Huge thank you to my family for being supportive as always. Thank you to Mike Wakefield for supplying the equipment for this, including this camera. Huge thank you to Julio and Lance for being great advisors and mentors. And thanks to my pets. My cat is sitting right here, watching. Anyways, thank you all again so much for watching, and I will see you all later. Peace out. Right. Now that's done. Time to go work on coffee and tea.